there are two classes. One is base class and derived class. It is also called as super class, and derived class is also called as subclass. Private and father. Father is a base class. Then we have open the bracket. Inside this we have data members and member functions of this derived class son in this example. King is one class, queen is another class, and this is derived class. So this is derived from king as well as queen. These are two different classes. Dear students, welcome to Computer Science Revision classes. I am Ravi Kumar KR, lecturer in Computer Science, Vidhyaashram PU College, Temple of Excellence, Mysuru. Let us start our revision classes with the chapter 10, Inheritance. Now, the weightage of the chapter is 6 marks. You have one 5 marks question and one MCQ. So, total weightage of the chapter is 6 marks. Now, let us discuss the important concept of the chapter Inheritance. Now, in this chapter, we are going to cover the definition of inheritance, what are visibility mode, types of inheritance, abstract class, and virtual base classes. Let us start with the definition of inheritance. So, what is inheritance? And all of you are familiar with the word inheritance, that is biological inheritance. So, we say that we are like, or you are like, or we say you resemble your mother, father, brother, sister. So, that is biological inheritance. Now, with respect to programming concept, now let us see what is inheritance. So, inheritance is the capability of one class to inherit properties from another class. So, here there is a concept of class and object, and there are two classes here. So, one class inherits properties to other class, or we can say one class acquires the properties from another class. That is the concept of inheritance. Now, it is a process in which one object acquires all the properties and behaviors of its parent object automatically. So here the concept is that the one object acquires all the properties from its parent class or from its parent object. It is called as inheritance. So here the concept of parent class or child class or base class or derived class. So there are two classes here. So parent class, from parent class, the properties are acquired by the child class automatically, or one object acquires the properties from parent class to the derived class. So that is the process of inheritance. It allows us to create a new class, the derived class, from an existing class. So another way we can say inheritance is nothing but creating a new class that is called as derived class, and from existing class that is called base class. So here this is the concept of inheritance, and here we are learning the different terms. One is base class or parent class, derived class or child class, and this is the concept of inheritance. Now let us see what is a base class. As we have seen in the previous slide, a base class, it is the class whose properties are inherited by another class. It is also called as superclass. So here base class means whose properties are inherited by another class. That is called base class or superclass. Next definition is derived class. What are derived class? It is the class that inherit properties from the base class or classes. It is called as subclass. So here there are two classes. One is base class and derived class. It is also called as superclass, and derived class is also called as subclass. So here derived class acquires the properties from the base class. So here is a parent class and this is child class. And let us see what are the advantages of inheritance. So this is reusing existing code and faster development time, easy to maintain, easy to extend, and memory utilization syntax. So these are all the different advantages of inheritance. Now let us see how to define a derived class? Because we know there will be a class that is called base class. So next one is how to define a derived class. The syntax is, this is a class, derived class name, visibility mode, and base class name. So, and here open the bracket, and here members of the derived classes, and close the class with semicolon. So this is the derived class. So this is a derived class, the derived class name, visibility mode, and this is a base class name. So it means that this derived class acquires properties from this base class. That is the concept of inheritance. Now let us see in this example where the class, this is a keyword, class is a keyword, derived class name, it is name of the derived class, and visibility mode, it is nothing but either we can have is a public, private or protected visibility modes. Next one is base class, and it is name of the base class or parent class from or whose properties are inherited by the derived class. So this is the syntax of defining a derived class. Now let us see. Here in the next slide, the body of the derived class contains its own data members and member function. So the body of the derived class. Now this is the body of the class here. So it contains the derived member functions and data members of its own class. And like base class definition, the derived class definition must be terminated by semicolon. So here there are two classes. So derived class, generally how we terminate classes with the semicolon, same way, similarly, we have to terminate the derived class because it's also a type of class. It has to be terminated with a semicolon. If no visibility mode is specified, by default it is considered as private. And if you look at the syntax here, this is visibility mode. So if you don't mention it, any visibility mode, by default it considered as private visibility mode. Next, all members of the class except private are inherited. So one of the properties that all the properties or all the members of the class, those who are declared under protected or public can be inherited, and except private means private data members or member functions cannot be inherited to any other derived classes. So these are all the properties of a derived class or inheritance. Now let us see the example for base class and derived classes. Now base class, class father, open the bracket, private data members, name and age. And under public we have character, caste, boys, girls, and there are member functions, that is read data and print data, and we are closing the class with semicolon here. So this is an example of a class. It is a base class. Now in the next slide we will see the definition of derived classes. So first one is public derived classes. So these are nothing but a visibility mode. One is public, private or protected. So here class son colon public father. So if you observe this in the previous slide, here father is name of a class. This is a base class. So according to the syntax, class is the reserved, son is the derived class name. Colon public is the visibility mode, and father is name of the base class. See, this is the syntax what you have seen or what you have learned in our previous slides. Then open the bracket. Then we are writing the data members and member functions of derived class. That is, son is the derived class in this example. Character, company, salary, and the public we have two functions, get data and display. So this is a public derived class. Now similarly, let us say private derived class. So what is a private derived class? Here private is the visibility mode. Similarly, private and father. Father is a base class. Then we have open the bracket. Inside this we have data members and member functions of this derived class son in this example. Close the class with semicolon. Next one is protected derived class. So visibility mode is protected here. open the bracket, and these are all the data members and member functions of the derived class son, and which is derived protected visibility mode. See, these are all how to define a base class and derived classes which are with different visibility modes. In the next slide, we will see the definition of visibility mode. So here, what is the visibility mode? It controls the access specifier to be for inheritable members of base class in the derived class. So this is what is visibility mode. It is a sort of a protection or access control of the base class members to the derived classes. So basically there are three types of visibility mode. One is private, public, and protected. In the previous slide, we have seen how to define the derived classes of three different visibility modes. Now let us see the definition of all these different levels of visibility mode. One is public inheritance. So here the public members of a base class becomes public members of the derived class. So this is a definition of public inheritance. So here, what is public inheritance? If you look at the example, this is a public inheritance. So this is an example for public inheritance. In the public inheritance, the public members of base class become the public members of the derived class. Now, the private members of base class cannot be inherited. That is the common properties inheritance. Private members of base class cannot be inherited to any of the visibility mode. The protected members of a base class stay protected in the derived class. See, this is the definition of public inheritance. Now, this is an example what you have seen in the previous slide. One more example here, class student. This is the private members. Here, roll number, character name, public access specifier with the member functions. And here, this is class COMP and public student. So this is a public inheritance. So visibility mode is public here. So these are the different members and member functions of the derived class COMP. In the next slide, we'll see what is a private inheritance. The private inheritance here, the public members of the base class becomes private members of the derived class. This is one of the properties here. The public members of base class becomes the private members of base class. The private member cannot be inherited. The protected member stay protected in derived class. So this is the definition of private inheritance. And the syntax, what we have seen in the previous slide. Now let us say example here, base class is class student, data members and member function, we are closing the class with semicolon here. Now under derived class, COMP and private. So this is, it indicates that this is a private inheritance or the visibility mode is private here. So again, we have private members and as well as public members, and we are closing the class with semicolon. So this is an example for private inheritance. Next one is protected inheritance. The definition is the public members of base class becomes protected in the derived class. So public members becomes the protected in the derived class. The private members cannot be inherited, and the protected members is stay protected in derived class. See, this is the properties of protected inheritance. Now, the example is almost similar to this. Class student, these are the data members and member functions of a class. And here, we can make out here, COMP is a derived class and visibility mode is protected. Or we can say this is protected inheritance. And these are all the members of derived class COMP. In the next slide, we will see another concept is levels of inheritance. Now, we can see the following different types of levels of inheritance. One is single level inheritance, multi-level inheritance, multiple inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, and hybrid inheritance. These are all different levels of inheritance. Now, let us see the definition of what is single inheritance. So here, if a class is derived from a single base class is called single level inheritance. So definition is a derived class is derived from only one base class. Look at the example. This is how we represent schematically the base class and derived class. Only one class is derived from this base class. That's the definition of single level inheritance. And here again, father and mother, son here, father is the base class and son, this is the only one class derived from father. This is the base class. This is single level inheritance. Next one is multi-level inheritance. What is multi-level inheritance? Here, the classes can be derived from the classes that are already derived. So, I read out once again. The classes can be derived from the classes which are already derived. So, look at the example here. So, this is a base class and this is a derived class. So, this derived class is derived from this base class. Next, derived class 2. So, this class is derived from this class and this is derived from this base class. So, this is the definition of multi-level inheritance. So, it is one class is derived from already existing class. That is the meaning of this multi-level inheritance. And here example we can look into this. One is classical grandfather and father and son. So these are different levels or different classes. So this is an example for multi-level inheritance. In the next slide, multiple inheritance. What is multiple inheritance? If a class is derived from more than one base class. So look at the definition. A derived class derived from more than one base class. Look at the example here. Suppose this is a one base class, second base class, and this is another base class. And this is the derived class. So this is derived from all the three classes. That is the meaning of multiple inheritance. Look at the example here. King is one class, queen is another class, and this is derived class. So this is derived from king as well as queen. These are two different classes. So this is an example for multiple inheritance. Next definition is hierarchical inheritance. Here, if number of classes are derived from a single base class, it is called hierarchical inheritance. Now look at the example now. This is staff, this is one base class, and from here we have lecturers, of office staff and group D staff. All these are derived from this one base class. So this is called hierarchical inheritance. Look at the base class and derived class, derived class, derived class. All these classes are derived from one base class. This is an example for hierarchical inheritance. Next slide. Hybrid inheritance. What is hybrid inheritance? And here it is a combination of hierarchical and multi-level inheritance. So this is a definition of hybrid inheritance. Look at the example now. One base class, derived class, derived class. So this is derived from these two classes are derived from one base class, and this derived class is derived from these two derived already existing classes or derived classes. This is an example for hybrid inheritance. So here this is, if you look into that, it is an example of hierarchical, and this is an example for multi-level inheritance. So it is a combination of hierarchical as well as multi-level inheritance. So this is the definition of hybrid inheritance. Now let us see next definition is virtual base classes. What is a virtual base class? When two or more objects are derived from a common base class, we can prevent multiple copies of the base class being present in an object derived from those objects by declaring the base class as virtual when it is being inherited. So what is the meaning of virtual here? So virtual is a reserved word. Virtual base class. See here, when we come across when two or more objects are derived from different base classes or same one common base classes, then we can prevent multiple copies of the base class by using the reserved word virtual. So this is the virtual base class. So here we can avoid multiple copies of the base class variables or member functions into derived classes by using the reserved virtual. That is the concept of virtual base classes. And such a base class is known as virtual base classes. This can be achieved by preceding the base class name with the word virtual. So we have to make use of the reserved word virtual. So it is before the base class name, then it becomes a virtual base class. So this is a concept of avoiding multiple copies of the base class variables or data members or member functions into derived classes. In the next slide, abstract class. What is an abstract class? So it is the one that is not used to create an object of a class. So generally, if we talk about a class is, with the help of a class, we can create n number of objects. That is a concept what you have seen in the previous sessions. But there are some abstract classes and it is not used to create objects. That's the definition of abstract class. It designed only to act as a base classes. And here it is not possible to inherit any characters from this abstract classes. So this is the definition of abstract class. Next one is destructors in derived classes. We know what are constructors and destructors. So the constructors are called down the line from base to the derived classes. Actually, when you use constructors in base and derived classes, we call the constructors of the base class, then the derived classes. But the destructors are called just in the reverse order, that is from derived class up to the base class. So when we call destructors, we are calling the destructors of the derived class then up to the base class. So that is how we call constructors and destructors in base class as well as in derived classes. Student, so far we have discussed about the important concept of the chapter inheritance. Let me continue my discussion in the next class. Thank you so much.